It started as nothing more than an eyesore, a weathered old shed at the back of the property, its roof sagging, paint peeling, and doors barely hanging on their hinges. Most people would have called it junk, something to tear down and forget. But I saw potential, a hidden structure waiting to be reborn. My goal? To turn that tired shed into a modern, fully functional tiny home. At first, I underestimated just how broken it really was. The foundation had shifted, half the boards were rotting, and inside was a graveyard of forgotten tools and dust. But here's the thing, transformation always begins in the mess. I cleared everything out, one rusted nail at a time, until I could finally stand inside and imagine what it could become. I started with the foundation, the most important part of any rebuild. The old shed had no proper footing, so I lifted the entire structure using jacks, reinforced the base with concrete blocks, and leveled everything until the frame sat square. That was the first turning point. Once it was stable, I knew the rest was possible. Next came the structure repair. I replaced the rotted floor joists and wall studs, sistered in new lumber where the old frame had given up, and added cross-bracing to keep everything rigid. It felt like doing surgery on a skeleton. Every new beam gave the shed new life. Once the bones were solid, I tackled insulation and weatherproofing. Tiny homes need efficiency, not just style. I used rigid foam panels between the studs, sealed every joint with spray foam, and wrapped the exterior in a moisture barrier. It wasn't glamorous work, but this step turns a drafty box into an actual living space. Then came the siding and exterior finish. I wanted modern simplicity, clean lines, warm tones, and low maintenance. So I went with vertical cedar planks stained in a deep charcoal gray and accented with natural wood trims. When the sun hit it, the grain glowed golden. Suddenly, the shed didn't look like a leftover anymore. It looked intentional. The roof was next, and it needed a complete overhaul. The old metal sheets were rusted through. I tore them off, repaired the rafters, added a new plywood deck, and installed a standing seam metal roof, strong, modern, and built to last decades. It was the first time I stood back and thought, this could actually be a home. Inside, I focused on space optimization. Tiny homes live or die by smart design. Every square inch matters. I framed a small loft area for sleeping, built floating shelves into the wall cavities, and used sliding barn doors instead of swing doors to save space. The floor was reclaimed oak, sanded and sealed with natural oil. Imperfect, but full of warmth. The kitchen came next. I installed a small butcher block countertop, a 2-burner gas stove, a deep farmhouse sink, and overhead storage. Beneath the counter, I fit a mini fridge and drawers custom-built to the inch. It was functional minimalism, nothing wasted, nothing excessive. The bathroom was the biggest challenge. I used a composting toilet, a compact shower stall, and a small vanity. Plumbing had to be reimagined entirely. Every pipe had to fit within tight constraints. It was frustrating, but when I saw water finally running through the tap for the first time, it felt like victory. For lighting, I went full off-grid. Solar panels on the roof powered a battery bank inside a hidden cabinet. Every bulb was LED, every watt accounted for. It wasn't just modern, it was sustainable. Then came the interior finish. I lined the walls with white shiplap to brighten the space and used warm wood trim to keep it cozy. I built a fold-out desk that doubled as a dining table and a built-in bench that stored blankets and tools. The result was seamless. Every piece of furniture had a function. When the final coat of varnish dried, I stood in the doorway and looked around. The same structure that once smelled of mold and rust now felt alive, bright, warm, and perfectly balanced. The hum of the fridge, the faint smell of cedar, the glow from the tiny window, it all came together like a quiet symphony. But what surprised me most wasn't how it looked, it was how it felt. Every hour spent rebuilding that shed had turned into something intangible, satisfaction. This wasn't a project anymore. It was a transformation, not just of wood and nails, but of perspective. Because when you turn something broken into something beautiful, you start seeing everything differently. Not just buildings, but people, time, and effort. You stop throwing things away so easily. You start believing that renewal is possible, even from decay. That tiny home became more than just shelter. It became proof that skill isn't what makes a builder. Persistence does. You don't need fancy tools or huge budgets. You just need a clear vision and the patience to see it through. Now, when I walk past that same spot at dusk, The warm glow of the windows spills across the yard, and I remember what it once was, a forgotten shed. Today, it's a symbol of possibility. So if you ever come across something old and worn out, don't look away. Look closer, because sometimes all it needs is someone willing to rebuild it, one board, one plan, and one dream at a time.